Hey everyone, thanks for having me. I currently lead our partnerships team at MailChimp for the past 5 years. MailChimp, if you're not familiar with them, we are a marketing platform most famously known for our email product. We serve about 13 million users globally. About half of our business or so is outside the US. A little about me personally though. Outside of MailChimp, prior to that, I started in the smart home industry. So most of my partnerships were in the retail segment within smart homes. So think like Best Buy, Amazon, Lowe's, Home Depot. Then the other half of my partners were really smart home manufacturers. So ones like Philips Hue, Alexa, Google Home, any of those kind of smart home products. So if anybody has any questions about that afterwards, I can still talk shop about that too. I'm your gal. Originally from Texas, now living in Atlanta, where MailChimp is headquarters. Hook 'em horns for any of our Texas fans that are out there. And I am a dog mom. On the left, you've got my pup, Uno. He's a 17-year-old Havanese that is going to outlive us all. And on the right, you have Nacho. He is a pup that we adopted right before the world fell apart with the pandemic. And so he has no idea that like his parents actually leave the house and things. So right about now, while I've been gone in Miami for a couple of days, probably freaking out. And if you've been on Zoom with me at any time, most of the time, one of them are gonna make an appearance on that call. And a little bit of a fun fact I wanted to include, my husband says that I'm a little bit of a popcorn addict. I tend to disagree, like who doesn't love bacon with their popcorn, right? So jumping into the presentation, we're gonna go on a little bit of a journey. And first we're gonna start with the history of partnerships. And then we're going to move into how MailChimp has adapted to solve the problem by combining product and partnerships together. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the impact that that's had by bringing those disciplines together and some tips for you to be able to implement this within your organizations after here. We're gonna step back in time a little bit. And let's take it circa 1986. And it's probably some of the younger people in the room right now are going, I don't even know who these people are. And I'm gonna switch to this next slide and you're probably gonna go, I don't know who those people are either. So Hirotaka and Ikojiro were our two Harvard professors. And what they started studying was successful manufacturers like 3M, Xerox, Toyota, and Honda. And what they found when they studied this was they all had a really common development process. And what that included was rather than go in sequential order, they didn't do that like other industries had. And based on that research, they found that they were much more successful and moved a lot faster. And they called this the rugby method. And why they called it the rugby method was because you had one big, giant cross-functional team across multiple phases and processes of this manufacturing. And they all work together as one unit, passing the ball back and forth, similar to what they do in rugby. And this is known today as Scrum. So prior to Scrum being out there, what would happen is you take these requirements and the product team would throw them over the wall to their development team. And it just wasn't efficient. And so now with the invention of, I don't know if it's invention, but with now this new way of working, the Scrum teams worked with product, they worked with engineering and design, and they worked a lot faster by doing that. And you'd be hard pressed to find a team in today's world, whether you call them squads, pods, whatever, it's all some form of agile. But on the product and partnership side, oops, excuse me, 1 second. So let's talk about how that applies in the partnerships and BD department back in 1986. Well, in 1986, there wasn't necessarily a partnerships department. That didn't really exist, right? So as partnerships has started emerging and really gotten there, sorry about that. So as the partnerships has emerged, we really haven't changed a lot. We still are throwing that over the fence and praying that it gets prioritized on a product roadmap. So let's fast forward to today. Sorry, these are a little bit out of, I think something may be wrong with this, potentially. Yeah. Thanks. So partnerships have become much more complex, and partners are playing a lot more in the technical and product sandbox than ever before. And each partnership can involve things like negotiating data privacy and user acquisition and security, all of those requiring deep technical knowledge in order to make the most successful partnership come to play. And in today, it's hard because partnerships are driving the overall success of a company. And you can't find a company that can make it without even having partnerships there. So at MailChimp, we have about 300 or so partners. We have about 4,500 or so integrations. But of those 4,500 or so integrations, a subset of those 300 are actually partners with us. And they're all critical to the success for our users. And it's all about alliances and mutually beneficial relationships that have your businesses integrate seamlessly with either the users that already use the product or should be using your product and have them work together. So where does this fit in an organization? It's been lots and lots of reorgs. I'm sure most of you in partnerships, if you've been in the industry for more than a couple years, you've probably already gone through a reorg because there's no one answer to where this all fits. And as I mentioned, it's like throwing something over the wall and just hoping that it gets on a product roadmap. And when we were at MailChimp, when we started at MailChimp and we lived outside of the product department, we did exactly that. And it just created a lot of inefficiencies in that game of telephone that got lost in translation. So what we did was we reorged and we tweaked a few of the processes. And that's where I'm going to start here. So let's talk about our org structure. And this is currently what we have in place today. So we have our Chief Product Officer, and we have our VP of Partnerships, yours truly. Now, under that, we've got our partner management team, most of which is sitting in the audience here today. And we organize that partnership team by BD, which handles our new partnerships, and then we have account management, which manages our existing partnerships. This is somewhat new for us. A couple years ago, we had it all under one umbrella, but this new hunter-farmer relationship has really, really made us much more efficient organizing our partnerships department that way. The next side, this looks a little different than probably a lot of the partnerships orgs sitting in the audience today. We have our product management team here, and our product managers not only support the integrations themselves, but they also help us on making sure that our users are finding those partners. They help us with the connections themselves, and they also are helping us engage with those partners throughout the app and throughout that user's journey with MailChimp. And then we have our partner operations team. And this partner operations team is super critical to helping us onboard and maintain those partners. Think project managers, project coordinators. Those are what sit under this team. And then last, we have that cross-functional team, engineering, design, and partner marketing that also reports in through us. And having that has been super critical. This whole team, there's about 80 or so that are on this whole cross-functional team rolling up into partnerships. Now, the roles that I've highlighted here in orange, these are roles that had I not sat in product, there are no way that I could have gotten those roles sitting in another department. So let's say I had reported into the Chief Marketing Officer. There's no way I could have had product managers on our team. That wouldn't fly. So that's been really successful. The other thing that it's really allowed is a lot of upwards and sidewards mobility. In a way that that's shown up is a pretty impressive figure, if I do say so myself. The majority of our team who has been here over a year has been promoted. And sometimes they're promoted within their own discipline, like partner manager to senior partner manager. But oftentimes, that's also allowed that cross promotion as well. So we've had, for example, a project manager on the team move over to product management, and we've had a partner manager move over to product management. So again, this makes them so much more well-rounded as a team and so much more broad skills. Now, before we sat in product, we felt like we were on the outside looking in. Like we just didn't know as much about our product. We didn't have those insights into the roadmap. And now the partner managers have so much more product knowledge than they ever did. They have those insights that are super critical to creating the best partnerships that are out there. Now, it does change the profile of the partner manager that you're hiring. So instead, we look at a lot of like people with product experience and working with product teams, even more so than like the target profile of strictly BD and sales background before partnerships. Now, I know you're probably like, oh no, not more process, please. But in reality, we really didn't create a lot of new process by being within the product department. We really streamlined the existing processes that we already had in place to include partner management. One really critical area we did that was on the buy, build, partner analysis. And all too many companies don't get this part right. And I think it's one of the biggest important jobs that we do in partnerships. And when companies don't do this right, a lot of times they build the wrong thing and they wasted a lot of time doing it. They miss out on opportunities. They miss lost revenue. And we saw that. When we didn't sit in product, we had a tendency, and I know this probably doesn't happen at your org, it's just ours, but our engineers wanted to build everything ourselves. They didn't want to go through partners, right? And so once we moved over to product, that really started changing. One, because we were much more knowledgeable as an organization with how we showed up, where our gaps were, where our strengths were, and that helped us perform those analysis better. And what we really saw was being a part of the product organization, they had the confidence in us, the other product managers in the various teams, so they bring us in earlier in that process for that evaluation. And because we have that one goal, there's no ego, there's no end game of it has to be one way or the other. We look at these three things independently, and there's times that we decide to build, and there's times that we decide to partner, and that's okay. There's two examples where this has showed up for us at MailChimp. We had two partners, one's named Sawa, and another one is named Lemon Stand, and they started out as partners for us. We tested the waters, we saw that was successful, and then we ended up making an acquisition after the fact, and now they're part of the MailChimp team. Before Scrum was a thing, these teams didn't work that closely together. Now, since Scrum has been around, you hear a lot about like the three-legged stool of design, engineering, and product. Well, what our team has really done is added a fourth leg to that stool by adding partnership management in there. So one way that we've done this, our organization, I mentioned pod squads. We call it at MailChimp, we call it initiatives. We've called it domains in the past. But our company has about 5 or so initiatives, with partnerships being one of those really large initiatives. And our partner management team, two of the people in the room that lead that for us are sitting in the audience today. They're actually a part of that initiative leadership team with us. So they're there for those critical conversations. They're there for what's working, what's not working, where we're talking about prioritization. And having their perspective in the room is bringing the partner's perspective in the room, and that's super critical for us. Now, all of your product managers have some sort of matrix that they use to prioritize their roadmap. What you're looking at on the screen here is something that I'd encourage each of you to take back to your teams. This is a matrix that our product team actually uses and we use today, with the left side being feasibility that our engineers rate something by, and then on the business and customer value, our product managers rate. Now, partner value is something that we've added since we've been part of the partnerships team. And what that means is our partner managers are representing the value of a particular item and how important that would be to a partner. And then we weight all of these equally and we come out with a list, a prioritized list. Now, the product manager is still ultimately at the end of the day going to make the decision on what we should prioritize. But now we have that critical piece of information, which is utilizing what is important to our partners as part of that evaluation. And it's really changed the game for us. So this reorg process has really started showing big returns for us on our investment, both in time and in resources. The first way that this showed up is we started moving a lot faster than we had. An example of this, we launched a $1 million integration fund, and we did this from ideation to launch in 4 months. And through that, we launched integrations with Mixpanel, we launched them with LinkedIn, we launched them with Squarespace and Patreon. And in 4 months to work with a partnerships and product team, like that's pretty incredible in such a short amount of time. So we were pretty impressed with that. The next way this has showed up is in the return on our investment. And I really, really desperately wanted to share this stat with you today, but I fought with my legal team and I lost. So you're now staring at a pizza instead of the actual stat of how much revenue partnerships brings to MailChimp. So I'm gonna lay this out in a metaphor that I hope you can relate to. So let's say you're out and you're starving. You haven't eaten all day, and I mean, you are really famished. And so you just start scarfing that pizza, you order that pizza, and you didn't leave your boo any. Your boo's sitting there like, what, you didn't leave me any pizza? That's how much revenue partnerships brings to MailChimp. So it's one that I guarantee you your executive C-suite would definitely want that kind of revenue coming in your organizations. It's also really helped us make better relationships and better integrations themselves with the partner. We're working so much more collaboratively with these partners as a result of this. We've seen this with like our Slack instance. Our most strategic partners, we actually work with in Slack on a daily basis, and not just the partner managers. This includes the product managers, our engineers, our designers. So this helps us get ahead of things and really start planning out, but it also helps us be reactive too. Like say there's an outage, there's a bug, we can jump on it right away. And so this has been really good for us. Next way it's really helped us was one that we didn't really even foresee, which is the contracts themselves. They're so much more comprehensive. And what it allows us to do is to do things like include all of the features inside the contract that we're going to have for V1. We also include things that will be in V2 and future iterations of the integration. And one thing that we didn't ever do before, and this is something I encourage you all to do, is make sure you build in maintenance and support to the integration itself, because once you've launched it, it's not one and done, right? It's a living, breathing integration that you constantly need to nurture. So make sure that you build in those maintenance agreements to the contract. And now that we sit in product, we are much crisper at what that means. And I'm sure at your organization, there's no politics, right? But sitting in product has really, really helped alleviate some of those internal politics. And I'm gonna end with what that looks like. Typically, you're gonna have to internally sell. And when I didn't sit in product, and that included I reported to our CMO, I've reported to our Chief Strategy Officer, and I've reported to 3 different Chief Product Officers now. But what would happen before I sat in product is I would have to go to that Chief Product Officer and get them on board with the particular idea or partner that we were trying to work with. And then we'd have to go to the individual product managers we would work with. Now we've eliminated that. What we've done is taken out that internal politics because our goals are all aligned. And there are times that we take our roadmap and we have a partner opportunity that came up that we didn't foresee. And it was such a great opportunity that I blow up our roadmap. And we put that partner right up at the top. And there are other times that there was an opportunity that's great, but our roadmap was just a higher priority than what we had in place. And so I have to wear both of those hats, but because I have the same goal regardless, I'm able to do that and make those trade-offs. So I know not everybody in this room sits within product. I think we're pretty unique in that way with MailChimp, but I encourage you, no matter what your organization looks like, having that strong relationship with your product team is critical to the success of partnerships, because we can't do everything as partnerships ourselves. We have to work a lot throughout the organization. We kind of call ourselves mini CEOs because you're really having to get all the other various cross-functional teams involved. But Again, I want to thank you for your time and happy to continue the conversation if anyone wants to talk about this. I think we've gone through maybe 6 or 7 reorgs in my time at MailChimp, so happy to talk through where this lives and the pros and cons of it. But thanks so much.